Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. So my name is James and I'm Head of Marketing here at Charities Digital. I'll be your host and would like to give you all a very warm welcome to today's session. As we did just mention, please introduce yourself in the chat, let us know where you're joining us from and let us know what your mission is for your organization. Firstly, a quick introduction to Charity Digital. So we are a registered UK charity and our mission is to help other charities increase their impact by being more digital. Today's session is called Robust Cybersecurity on a Shoestring with James Bevan, Senior Territory Account Manager at Avast. We will cover, amongst other things, cybersecurity trends in 2025, the essentials that charities need to stay protected online, and top cyber risks to help colleagues look out for. Now, just before I hand over to James, I just want to share a few house rules and pointers for today's session. The session is being recorded and will be uploaded to watch on demand within a week's time. Any slides that are shared together with any resources will also be made available for you, so don't worry if you've missed anything. Closed captions are available for today's session, so to enable these, in the bottom of the Zoom window, click the up arrow next to closed caption and press show subtitles. During the webinar, please ask lots of questions in the Q&A section, which is located on the Zoom menu bar for James and I to address at the end of the presentation. If someone asks a question that resonates with you, you can upvote it. So just click on the thumbs up icon and this will upvote it automatically. Finally, if you encounter any sound or image issues, please let us know in the chat and we will do our very best to get the session back to normal as soon as we can. Without further ado, I will hand over to James.
Thank you very much, James. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, it's all looking
Super,
well for
brilliant.
me.
We're off to a good start then.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is also James, James Bevan, Senior Territory Manager at Avast. Pleasure to be with you this afternoon. For those of you that don't know, Avast Business is an award-winning cybersecurity solutions provider for small and growing businesses. As a Gen Digital trusted brand, we have one of the largest and most globally dispersed threat detection networks in the world, backed by over 30 years of innovation. I've worked in cybersecurity now for over 11 years, and for the past 6, I've had the privilege of working closely with the brilliant team at Charity Digital, supporting charities across the UK and strengthening their cybersecurity strategies. The National Cybersecurity Centre, also known as the NCSC, which we'll hear more about later today. Their UK charity sector report, produced in collaboration with Charity Digital, revealed 98% of charities recognise cybersecurity as important, which is fantastic and it's great to read. And I'm sure everyone on this call today makes up part of that 98%. Today's session really has two main goals, followed by an open Q&A, as James mentioned, at the end of the call, where I encourage you all to ask lots of questions, and I'll try and get those answered for you. First, we'll take a closer look at why charities and not-for-profit sector is especially vulnerable to cyber attacks. And then we'll share some practical tips and tricks that you can start using straight away without stretching your budget. I think this focus on affordability is really important. With the ongoing cost of living crisis and tighter budgets across the board, we know that every penny counts, right? And most charities are feeling the pressure, especially with the recent changes to employers' national insurance contributions, which have added even more financial strain. I actually know this personally, as my sales manager at Avast, who's in the chat somewhere, is also a trustee at a charity. And like you, she has experienced difficult budget decisions in the last couple of years. In this environment, it's about making smart, cost-effective decisions about where and how to invest in cybersecurity. And that's more important than ever. Super. So the charity sector at a glance. There are over 200,000 charities registered in the UK. Combined, they generate over £100 billion annually. In England and Wales alone, the sector employs over 1 million people now and relies on 5 million volunteers. Yet, despite the size and impact, charities are increasingly vulnerable to cyber threats. And unfortunately, guys, the threat is real. According to the UK government's 2024 cyber breach survey, a staggering 32% of charities experienced a cyber breach in the past year. Charities, of course, handle that sensitive data, the donor details, the financial records, and that's what makes you guys so attractive to cyber criminals. And while many charities focus on delivering vital services, cybersecurity can often take a backseat, leaving you guys more exposed. This is what we're going to try and help you with on the call today. You see, charities are especially vulnerable. You guys face the same risks as businesses and government bodies, but with added challenges that add complexity. The first, as I mentioned, is that handling of sensitive data. Charities are often storing personal data, beneficiaries and volunteers' data, names, addresses, payment details. And such data is so highly valuable to cybercriminals for identity or fraud or financial fraud, which we're seeing on the rise at the moment. The second, unfortunately, is the limited resources. You guys may feel sometimes it's difficult or reluctant to spend resources, money, or oversight on enhancing cybersecurity rather than that important frontline work you do. Charities are less likely than businesses to employ technical cybersecurity controls. And charities have a high volume of staff, of course, who work, part-time or volunteers. So you might have less capacity in the business to absorb those security procedures across the business. And we'll try and dig into this in more detail throughout the session. Charities are also more likely to rely on staff using personal devices in the industry known as kind of bring your own devices. This is less easy to secure and manage than centrally issued IT. In fact, 64% of charities report their staff regularly use their own devices rather than 45% of other businesses. On top of that, only 5% of charities use dedicated cyber insurance, and smaller charities are even less likely to be covered, meaning they bear the cost of full recovery after an attack. What I really want to do now is try and understand the current threat landscape. As I mentioned, charities are often seen as a soft target, whether that's correct or not, due to outdated systems or limited budgets. And the two big threats we're seeing at the moment, the first is phishing. Now, phishing, not fishing with a rod, but fishing with a PH, is one of the most common and dangerous cyber threats facing charities today. In an ever-changing world, especially with the rise of AI, it involves attackers pretending to be trusted individuals or organizations, like a colleague or a supplier or even a government agency. They try and trick your staff into clicking on malicious links or downloading harmful attachments or sharing sensitive data like passwords or financial details. And unfortunately, this really matters. 83% of charities, that's a staggeringly high number, reported a phishing attack in the past year. That's down to the UK government cyber breach survey of 2024. And a single click can compromise your entire systems, leading to data breaches or financial loss. Moreover, according to the FBI, that big organization in America, their IC3 report was that phishing was the most reported cybercrime globally, with nearly 300,000 incidents. So serious stuff. So how does it work? Well, phishing emails are designed to look legitimate. They often use urgent language, like your account has been suspended. They include fake logos and branding. They have links to websites that mimic real life pages. And they come from email addresses that are almost, but not quite right. And something that's really funny is I've been preparing for this webinar all week. And this morning, which is so ironic, I actually had a email in my inbox, believe it or not, and it was pretending to be from my payslip provider and asking me to click a link to update my password. Now, fortunately, I recognized the domain and the domain wasn't correct. So I then reported that email to my internal IT department. But it shows, actually, I'm sure you can all feel this, how these kind of scam emails are now filling up our inboxes and our junk. And it's super important to assess the email, just take an extra second, have a look. Where is the email coming from? Look at the domain. Is it correct? Because the last thing we want to do is click on that link without taking an extra second to double check. So kind of why are charities especially at risk? There's a couple of extra things again. Number one, as I mentioned, is that staff and volunteers may not have that formal training. Often charities rely on personal devices, as I mentioned, and with personal devices come personal email accounts, which are much easier to exploit than a business grade account. So here's the positive stuff, right? How can we help you guys protect your charity from the phishing attacks and from those scam emails? Number one sounds super, super basic, but I urge everyone to train staff and volunteers. Spot those suspicious emails. There are super sites, and we're going to send some resources after the call, like the National Cybersecurity Centre or businesses like Know Before who can help. And I know it's difficult given the kind of turnover of staff, but I would suggest maybe sending a reminder email to staff once a month on kind of phishing threats and what to look out for. Second is the use of email filtering tools to block known phishing domains and enable spam filters. Your email providers can catch a lot of phishing attempts before they even reach you. You'll see things going into your junk or spam. Leave it there. Don't take emails out of junk and spam. Leave it, delete it from junk and spam, but never move anything from your junk or spam into your main inbox. A tip is to enable multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication, which we'll cover a bit more shortly. But even if, God forbid, scammers steal your passwords, they can't log in without that second verification step. And that's where something like multi-factor authentication can add that second layer and provide additional protection. Report phishing attempts. If you have an IT team or a service provider, report it immediately. The quicker we can jump on one of these issues, the quicker we can look to resolve and help. And then finally, do scans for malware and change your password immediately as soon as something has occurred, right? If you think it's possible or you suspect an attack has happened, change the password because the attack is there to steal current passwords and log into accounts. If you then change those passwords straight away, that hopefully provides that extra layer of protection. Super. So that's phishing. This one is now ransomware, which you may have come across before. Ransomware is a type of malicious software and malware that locks you out of your system and tries to encrypt your data. The attackers then try and demand a ransom, usually in like cryptocurrency, in exchange for restoring access. How it works, well, number one, it's in an infection, and it often starts with that phishing email we've just mentioned or a compromised website. Then it encrypts. Once inside your network, the ransomware encrypts files, making them inaccessible, and then demands a demand, and a ransomware note will appear demanding payment in exchange for a decryption key. Attackers may also threaten to leak sensitive data if the ransomware isn't paid. So why is this so harmful? Well, apart from the obvious disruption, you may lose access to your databases or financial records. There's the financial impact. Recovery costs can be significant, even if you don't pay the ransom. And then there's the reputational damage as well. Donors and beneficiaries may lose trust. Unfortunately, I'm sure you've all seen in the news at the moment incidents at Marks and Spencer's as an example. Reputational damage can be just as powerful as financial. So I appreciate a lot of this can feel high level. I want to introduce some kind of real world examples here. So the first is the Edinburgh, easy for me to say, Festival Fringe Society, who are a registered charity. They were actually hit by one of these ransomware attacks in 2022. The recovery cost was almost £95,000, huge. They were insured, but only up to 25,000, so the rest had to come out the charitable reserves. And unfortunately, historic data was at risk. So, you may hear a lot when it comes to things like ransomware, but unfortunately, there are real world consequences that can happen. Now, I hope nobody ever needs this. Right, but Avast do have your back if you ever do fall victim to a ransomware. So we do offer a free decryption tool service against a variety of different variants. Again, hopefully you'll never need this, but if you do, you will get access to this website, and we'll send you over the link after the call. We have a huge catalog of known variants of ransomware, and the decryption keys available, so you can hopefully use those to decrypt the files rather than having to pay any kind of ransom. Super. So let's move on to some of the positive stuff, right? Some of those tips and tricks that can actually help you against the cyber threats. The first thing I want to highlight is Cyber Essentials. I don't know if you've come across this before, but Cyber Essentials is fantastic. It's an effective government-backed cybersecurity scheme centered on 5 core controls that, if implemented correctly, will help you to protect your charity against the most common cyber attacks. This is a great way to scale up your cybersecurity credentials whilst doing a couple of things. So number one, building trust with donors and stakeholders. So that certification that you get by the government shows that your charity takes cybersecurity seriously. This can boost confidence amongst donors, funders, and partners, especially when handling sensitive data or financial data, right? And you can have your Cyber Essentials on your website, so all suppliers as well, anyone in the supply chain knows that they're working with an organization that's accredited with Cyber Essentials. It will reduce the risk of disruption. So cyber attacks can halt operations and damage your reputation and cost thousands. Cyber Essentials helps prevent those disruptions by ensuring those basic controls we'll speak about in a minute are in place. It is affordable and achievable, right? This is across small businesses, from your one-man bands all the way up to your large organizations, but it is designed to be accessible, even for the smallest charities. And again, it focuses on those key controls that are practical and cost-effective to implement. And going back to what we said at the very start, it's a good way to improve staff awareness. The certification process encourages better training and awareness among staff and volunteers, hopefully reducing the likelihood of human error. So the good news, and the reason hopefully you're on the call today, is there are practical steps we can take to try and protect ourselves. I've listed them here. They're 4 key principles. They're from the NCSC guidance. We'll share that after the call. I'm just going to jump ahead quickly just to show you a great snapshot from the NCSC. Again, we'll share this, giving you a super overview of everything. I'm about to cover in more detail as well. I actually kind of urge everyone to download this afterwards, print it out, maybe have it on your desk as well, or saved on your computer so you can refer back to. A great way to provide you some super tips and tricks. So the first one on there is backing up your data. So data realistically is your most valuable asset. So back it up, encrypt it, and make sure that only the right people can access it. That's my 3 big tips there. Imagine losing access to the charitable's data, the supplier's details, your volunteers' data. How long could you guys continue to operate without them? That's why regular data backups are essential for every charity. No matter the size, no matter the mission, backups ensure that your most important information is safe, recent, and most importantly, recoverable. Because it's not only cybersecurity, it's floods or fire or theft. Having reliable backups means your charity can bounce back quickly and continue serving your communities without any kind of major disruption. What I would say is it's not just about protection, it's also about resilience. And where the industry may get a bit confusing is there are lots of different types of backup solutions out there across so many different vendors. And realistically, you may not have the resource, the budget, or the need for a large disaster recovery solution or a bare metal server image. They're great, but realistically, they're probably not a fit. But putting kind of super simple steps in place, like a cloud backup based for file and folder only, is a great start. Making sure those key files, those key folders you have can be protected. We actually provide a similar service ourselves through Charities Digital. I'm sure you'll get details after the call. The next is antivirus, right? Business grade antivirus. So you can protect all your devices, PCs, laptops, tablets, and phones, and choosing a reputable antivirus software with real-time protection. You know, it's funny. I've been doing this job for 11 years, and the amount of times I've had calls from a business telling me they urgently need antivirus, and I'm saying, great. Can you tell me a bit more about your situation and your organization? And they tell me that they've just been hit by ransomware. They've just been affected by a cyber attack, and now they need antivirus. It's the wrong way to go about it. And I would urge everyone to get an antivirus solution in place now, not after the attack has taken place. Please be proactive with your security, not reactive. And I know I'm kind of making light of it, but I would say at least a call every month, every couple of months, over 11 years, maybe 100 calls I've had with organizations that didn't take the steps, were affected, and then wanted to take those steps, at which time the damage had been done and it would cost them significantly more in brand damage and reputation than it would have been done if they purchased an antivirus in the first place. The next is patching, patch management. I don't know if you're all aware of this term, patching. So what is it? Whether you're using a tablet, a smartphone, a laptop, or a desktop, it's crucial to keep both the software and the operating system up to date. So these updates are then known as patches, and they're released by developers and vendors to fix cybersecurity flaws and improve the performance of the machines. Think of patching as the cybersecurity equivalent of eating your fruits and vegetables. So simple, routine, and kind of vital for long-term health. Bit corny, but I think it works. To stay protected, here's the tips. Enable automatic updates on all your devices and applications. Regularly check that all updates are working, and if they're not, make sure that you switch them on. Update patches. They fix security flaws, so don't ignore them. And staying current is one of the easiest and most effective ways to defend against cyber threats. The other option you guys have is there are software available at the moment that will automatically update the unpatched software on your machine. You can schedule when those updates are going to happen and you can set them in the policy. So you have a couple of options. When it comes to Windows patching, yes, that can be done locally, but especially those third-party patches, things like Zoom that we're on now, Java, Slack, Adobe, and your browsers, there are key vulnerabilities that can happen there, and people don't always think about updating the third-party software. So my advice would be, as well as Windows, make sure your third-party software across the organization is as up to date as possible to eliminate those vulnerabilities. And this really, really does matter because unpatched software can lead to backdoor vulnerabilities. And the biggest example of this that you may have heard of was the WannaCry ransomware attack that happened back in 2017, which had a major impact across the NHS, but also globally. I think it affected more than 200,000 computers across 150 countries. So huge. And this was all due to unpatched legacy Windows machines. So if that doesn't reiterate it, please take time to review your patch management policy and make sure you have something in place. And finally, if you have colleagues or yourselves that go on unsecure Wi-Fi, so if you work from cafes or restaurants or airports, you sometimes may log into one of their free open Wi-Fi hotspots where you don't need to enter a password. It will just kind of automatically log you in. These are kind of free for a reason and therefore don't have that business grade encryption we would expect. So I would urge everyone to avoid sending any sensitive data over open networks. Instead, if you need to, use 4G or 5G, or even better than that, use a business grade VPN to encrypt your traffic and your connection, because you can never be too safe and take enough preparation when it comes to your business's data. And again, as I've just mentioned, we have this fantastic guide, which I'll share, which covers some super topics around phishing attacks, preventing that malware damage, and the importance of backing up. As I've mentioned, shameless pitch quickly, we have this we have these solutions backed up by Cyber Essentials and the NSSC in our solution, right? Avast offers a bundled package covering cloud backup for your data, antivirus for your endpoint, patch management for the application, both Windows and third party, and web control to cover your network. And it's in one easy bundled solution. Again, that's available through the guys at Charity Digital if it is of any interest. And what I have been told to mention is if this is of interest at all, after the call, you can get yourselves a free 30-day trial of the product to test it out on your own machines, see if it's something that could be a fit for your organization. So I urge you, it's free, to take a look at that as well. Super. So yes, and here's a quick screenshot again of what I've just mentioned there. So the next big tip I have is passwords, which is a bit of a funny one, really. I mean, how often, if you reflect on your own business, do you guys change your passwords? Do you use the same passwords across multiple sites? Is your password easy to guess? Do you have it written down in front of you in a book or a sticky pad so you don't forget it? Hopefully not. But typically, research has shown that staff hate passwords, but cyber criminals love passwords, right? And a password is the access key to almost every digital device and almost every online account you use. In today's digital world, the average person has between, and this is crazy, between 70 and 130 online accounts that require passwords. So if you're using an individual password for each of those, we're talking up to 130 individual passwords. As a result of that, many people just replicate the same password, right? And we're going to speak about that in a bit more detail in a minute. So following are some key recommendations for good password policy. Number one, I encourage everyone to use a strong and unique password. So at least 12 characters, include uppercase and lowercase and numbers and symbols, and avoid common words. No charity 123, no password 12345. Please try and use a strong password and avoid reusing that password, especially super important between work and personal logins. If you are attacked on your personal device because you don't have the security there, that's one thing. The last thing we want to do is translate that over to the business and have the business then at risk. So a couple of tips, right? Because there's 30, 50, 130 different online portals. How are you going to manage that? The best advice I have is to use a password manager, right? There are free password managers you can get. Avast has a password manager you can use for free as well. It's an application on your phone, a tablet, or computer that stores your passwords. So you don't need to remember them all, which is great. Once you've logged into a password manager using a master password, it will then generate and remember your passwords for all online accounts. Many password managers can also enter your passwords into the websites and applications automatically, so you don't even have to type them in every time you log in. And if you are, I'm not sure about Android, but on an iOS device, like I have myself, my iPhone, there is a password manager already built in. So when you log into a new online portal or website or create an account for the first time, it's going to create a unique passphrase, and it's going to store that within your password manager. So every time you go back to that site, it will use that unique passphrase. That's a great way to increase your security, having a unique password for a specific site that isn't replicated across the rest of the organization. And finally, enabling multi-factor authentication. We mentioned it at the start, but it's always great to layer your security, and adding that extra layer of protection by requiring a second step and giving you a code for a code that might be sent to your phone either by like email or mobile, or sometimes there's authentication tools, free tools that will ask you to enter a code. Just gives you guys the confidence that if something did happen, there's that extra layer. So I would urge everyone, where applicable, make sure you have some kind of multi-factor or two-factor authentication enabled. So here's some great resources I wanted to highlight. We have the Avast blog, which is a free blog that updates multiple times a month with great resources across a whole wide range of topics when it comes to cybersecurity. So urge you to take a look at that. The Avast Academy is a training portal. Super. You guys can use that across your staff as well to test their knowledge on malware, on viruses, on ransomware, and all the latest threats. I've mentioned the free decryption tool. Again, hopefully you guys don't need that, but if you ever do, it's there. We have the Avast Hack Check, which is a bit of a scary one, but worth using. You can enter your email addresses, and it will tell you if any of those have ever been leaked, right, across the dark web. And if they have across any of those accounts that use those email addresses, probably best to go in and update the password and use a strong password at that. And then I just want to highlight Norton Genie. Norton is part of the Gen Digital family. Avast is also a brand under the Gen Digital family. And Norton Genie is a new AI-based scam detector tool. So if you do have any emails that you're not sure if there's a legitimate or not, you can enter them free of charge into the Norton Genie application, and it will tell you whether it's a scam or not. It's a super intelligent tool. It's free of charge, and we'll send you the link after the call. And then finally, I did all the research for this call, and what came out yesterday, literally May 28th, was the our Gen Digital Threat Report. Fantastic resource. For me, it probably should have come out earlier, so I could have used a bit more of it in the presentation. But I do urge all of you to take a look at this report. It's about 30 minutes long, but it has fantastic kind of breadth of information on all kind of the kind of recent threats that we've seen. And again, globally, we have over 400 million devices that use the AVG, the Avast, and the Norton technology, all reporting back into our threat lab. So a huge amount of resource. And then it's all compiled into this report. So really interesting stuff. And again, it highlights the rise of those phishing attacks that I've mentioned earlier. Wow, we've really run through this. So thank you very much for your attention today, everyone. Really appreciate it. I just want to wrap up before we go to the Q&A and conclude. Hopefully, if you've seen throughout this session today, cybersecurity doesn't have to be overwhelming or expensive. Even small, thoughtful actions can go a long way in protecting your charity, your people, and the communities you serve. Yes, unfortunately, the risks are real, but so are the solutions. From backing up your data, to raising awareness among staff and volunteers, to having a look at your antivirus or your patch management policies, to using a VPN, to using a unique password or a password manager. Every little step you take builds towards that overall resilience. And remember, this isn't about perfection. It's about progress, and every bit of progress helps your charity stay safe, stay trusted, stay focused on what matters most, which is making a difference. Thank you kind of so much for the time today. It really was a pleasure to speak to all of you. I hope you're leaving with a few practical ideas and a bit more confidence to take the next step forward. As I mentioned, we've worked hand in hand with Charity Digital for 6 or 7 years now. So if you ever want a deep dive, a further consultation or a call, we're more than happy to speak, or reach out to your representative at Charity Digital and we'll be able to get anything answered there as well. And again, remember, we have a free 30-day trial of any of our solutions if you want to test them out too. I will stop talking now. I know I've kind of spoken at you for half an hour there. We'll head over to the Q&A. So I don't know if there's any questions there at all, James.
Yes, yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah, plenty of helpful takeaways there. We do have plenty of questions so far, but if anyone does have further questions, feel free to pop them in. We're going to cover as many as we can with the allotted remaining time. So just pop them in the Q&A bar along the bottom of the Zoom option menu. So you did cover this already. I think this was asked slightly before you ran through your slide, but just wondering if there's anything else to elaborate on of why are we more at risk? Why is the threat growing for us? fine if you've already, I know you had the slide to cover it, but in
Uh,
case there's anything else that comes to mind.
yeah, no, absolutely. No, again, it's a great question. It's one of the key reasons we're kind of on this call today, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would just say, and actually this threat report that I just mentioned actually mentions this as well. Again, phishing attacks are on the rise, and because of the world of AI that we're living in now, what we're seeing is threats becoming more sophisticated. Those
Hmm.
phishing emails, the actual email templates, are becoming so clever that it really does become very difficult to see what's real and what's fake, right? And unfortunately, from the bad side of things, AI is only getting smarter, and therefore the bad guys that try and leverage this technology are just getting smarter as well. So once again, the big risk when it comes to charities, and it's okay if this isn't within your organization, but again, there's 5 million volunteers working across the sector, is educating those volunteers, maybe when you onboard them, just giving them some useful tips and tricks just to remind them not to click on any links, right? Without thoroughly checking the website, thoroughly checking the email, the domain of the email, the context and body of the email. And if they're not sure, to ask someone else within the organization. Um, I really would kind of reiterate that. And again, unfortunately, a lot of these issues when it comes to cyber attacks are down to human error, right? It's super important that we all just kind of take that time to review everything before then taking an action. I hope that helps answer that, James.
No, it does. It does. It was just, yeah, useful expanding on what you've already discussed. So thank you. Next one, another great idea. What sort of insurance should you get to help cover this issue?
Really good question. So, what you're seeing these days is a variety of different kind of cyber insurance policies that have opened up across the market. I'll see if I can dig some information out afterwards. I'll send it over to you, James, to fire over to the team.
Thank you.
Avast don't recommend one over the other, but obviously, businesses or people at home take out car insurance and travel insurance, right? Home insurance. What's on offer now is cyber insurance, which is that added layer of protection for a business in case the worst did happen. It does often require you have certain controls in place to make sure you fit that criteria for the cyber insurance. But what I will say, as long as you followed the guidance by something like cyber insurance, sorry, something like cyber essentials, having a antivirus in place, a backup in place, making sure all applications that you have are patched within 14 days, making sure you're using a password manager, then you should be able to get yourself insured if that's something you want to do. Obviously, again, there's nothing in particular I recommend, but I will send over some links and some details afterwards, so that's something that can be reviewed.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I guess it's like any other policy. It needs to be tiered towards your organization. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, lots of variation there. So we've had this is more of a statement, but I will turn it into a question. It's just
Okay.
a situation that someone went through. So you'd said that two-factor authentication is critical to avoid a bad situation. But in the last question, in one of the last questions we spoke about, these threats are getting even more sophisticated the whole time. So in this organization, one of their trustees' email addresses was hacked. Um, and then they tried to reset their password with two-factor authentication, but then the hacker intercepted the two-factor authentication process. Um, is this something that we're seeing a lot of? And what is the best way to avoid this sort of situation?
Well, first of all, I'm really sorry to hear that. If that individual needs any additional help and wants to reach out for a call afterwards, more than happy to have the conversation. Could always speak to our tech team and see if there's any advice they can give up and above what I have to say. Um,
Yes, yes.
so originally there was two-factor authentication, right? That's what it says. It offers two versions of authentication, two-factor. What we're seeing today is that multi-factor authentication, which then adds in even additional layers. So as well as like an email to confirm login is correct. It may also want a trusted like phone number, and it will send you a text. One of the common things we're seeing these days, Microsoft and Google both do their own authentication tool. So you would log into a certain tool, and it would then give you a password, like a code that pings that authentication tool. So you'd log into the authentication tool or application on your phone, and then use the passcode from your phone, and from that application into whatever website you're trying to access. So yes, unfortunately, no easy answer there from myself. Really unfortunate if the trustee email address had been hacked. Like I mentioned, I kind of urge everyone to actually use that tool I mentioned, so you can actually view the kind of email addresses that you have, and whether they are available on the dark web at all. But for this individual, again, if you guys want to reach out, feel free, and we'll have that further conversation. But two-factor authentication is great, but sometimes a multi-channel layered approach is even better. I appreciate it can be a pain. Right? Oh, great! I need to log into this now. I need to get a code on this email, and now I need to check this text, right? So I do appreciate that, and I think what we'll see as time goes on is more sophisticated ways that will streamline that process while keeping the protection layered. But for the moment, where there is multi authentication options, I would suggest using those.
Absolutely. Thank you. David asks, so you mentioned Wi-Fi networks. Is this mainly a risk for the data you send rather than viruses?
Yeah, so this is specifically on what's known as kind of free public open Wi-Fi's, right? So um, some often at like again airports or coffee shops or restaurants, the traffic that goes backwards and forwards that you're sending if you're online, or you're receiving if someone's sending something to you, isn't always encrypted to the level that you would get on a business grade Wi-Fi, so within your business network. And because it's not of a certain level of encryption, there's risks that hackers have an easier chance of accessing that network and therefore stealing the data. And therefore, because it doesn't reach an encryption level that is really of a level that is appropriate for businesses, you shouldn't really be sending or using business tools on those networks, right? So I'm not saying you're going to be hacked when you're on there, but if we were looking at best practices, you're better off either using your 4G or 5G data, or even better using a VPN, and a business grade VPN will encrypt the traffic. So it's all about making sure that traffic is encrypted. What do I mean by that? Not to be too technical, but basically, if you're looking at important business data, if it's not encrypted to a certain standard, it's easier for hackers to access it. So better off on a VPN, or better off not using public Wi-Fi at all for business data. I hope that helps.
Yes. Yeah, no, it really does. Thank you. That's a really good answer. So we've had several questions around this, so I'll try and combine what everyone's been
This is
saying.
good.
So it's about password managers. So part one is, would Google's inbuilt one count as this? And then we've had a few people asking about recommended password managers. Are there any free or cheap password managers for charities? Um,
So there's yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are lots out there. Shameless plug, Avast have one ourselves. And we can always send you the details. But actually, the truth is there are a lot of really good password managers out there. What I'll do is, once again, apologies, but I'll, I'll compile the data afterwards, and I'll get some links sent over if that's all right, James.
yes.
So we can share some of the best out there. The idea around these password managers is you kind of had that one master password. You can't forget the master password, because the master password allows you to log into the password manager itself. That's the one bit of advice I'd give you, is call the master password for a reason. But once you've logged in, you'll see all your passwords stored individually under those specific sites that you have. So you'd have a separate password, which is going to be a long, unique phrase for, the Facebook account, the Twitter account, the LinkedIn account. Each account, I mentioned that there's so many of them, will have a unique phrase, and this really gives you the best opportunity when it comes to passwords on not replicating them and using them that are a sufficient length. So yes, we'll get you a whole list. I'll send you a list of 5 or 6 different password managers that you guys can look at. And there's many out there that are completely free of charge. In terms of Google's itself, great when you're kind of using Google, and it's gonna what you'll see is when you log into certain things using using the Google browser, Chrome, it will automatically save the passwords right in the corner. So if you're using Facebook on Chrome and you log into Chrome, you log into Facebook, you'll see that the password is saved, and then when you go into log into Facebook, it's automatically on there. That's great, but that protection is then within the browser itself. So if anything happened to the browser, again, browser out of date, browser's not patched, then potentially there could be a risk. So it provides a level of protection, but I would suggest using a password manager outside of the actual browser itself. That would be my suggestion.
Great. Yeah, that's good advice, and definitely one that I need to take on myself as well. So I'll be incorporating that. This is a really good question from Sophie, because I know a lot of charitable organizations will be in the same situation. So what are the best practices for holding an IT provider accountable if they are slow or unresponsive on cybersecurity issues? And then part 2, do you know of any effective ways to keep staff engaged and compliant with mandatory cybersecurity training that we are trying to roll out?
Good, really, really good questions, right? Thank you everyone
A
very
tough
much for
one.
the engaging. I would mention looking at Know Before. So Know Before are a security vendor out there that provides kind of education and training across both phishing and education of the wider businesses. It's a great resource that can be used and leveraged across the business. So yeah, we'll ping you those details afterwards. It's Know Before, which is probably going to be helpful. In terms of keeping staff motivated, again, cybersecurity is a tricky one, right? People don't always see it in the top of their mind, but I would suggest, when onboarding staff at the start, and maybe through a regular email once a quarter, just reminding staff of the importance when it comes to cybersecurity. You can get a great kind of like a hygiene list of tips that they can be using. And again, reminding people to watch out for those suspicious emails. I think the motivation thing is hard. Ultimately, like I mentioned, a lot of this comes from human error. But if we kind of reiterate the issues that could happen if staff don't take those extra precautions, then hopefully that will motivate the staff to just double check the link before they're clicking on it, or double check the file that they're opening. When it comes to Cyber Essentials, we can send you all the details on how you can get certified. There are a number of providers. I think IASME are the main provider at the moment to get yourself certified, but I think also lots of IT providers outside of them offer the service. Basically, going in and doing an audit of your systems, understanding what's on the network at the moment, understanding the software that you have on the systems, and then going through a very simple tick list. Again, this tick list provided by the government on, what is needed within the organization. Number one, is there an appropriate antivirus in place? Number two, do you have patch management procedures? And actually, when it comes to Cyber Essentials, the wording at the moment is to make sure that all your kind of software is patched within 14 days of a critical patch coming out. And these are things that an IT provider can go through. Hopefully, you won't need to chase an IT provider for this. I guess if you are having any issues with an IT provider, we can provide lists of other businesses, IT businesses that can help with this. I'm sure you guys, James at Charity Digital, may have some advice there as well. But Cyber Essentials is really such a great way to give you that super baseline and foundation to the business to know and have the confidence that you've got the bare minimum in place. And actually, the bare minimum in a lot of places across all different parts of the organization will really help you guys stay protected.
Yes, definitely. We've had a few people echo about Know Before, so
Oh, super.
definitely want to check out. And Emily helpfully put in, because it's No BE and then the number four.
Oh, it is. Yeah, 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 absolutely.
Emily helpfully supplied that in the chat, so thank you, Emily. Um, Two questions on a similar vein. So Claire asks, we use the Google Application Suite so that no data is stored locally. Do we need to do additional backups, or do we trust the G Suite to do the backup? And I think someone else echoed the
I
same question.
mean, ultimately, it's down to your discretion in the organization. We suggest that you have a cloud backup in place, at least for your critical file and folders. Um, Again, I'm not going to say that there's anything, God forbid, anything's going to happen with the G Suite or with Google, but having the confidence that you have a separate backup in place at the very minimum for crucial files and crucial folders is something that we suggest. Um, and again, it's entirely up to you. The fact you have any kind of backup in place at the moment with your G Suite is fantastic. Um, and again, at the bare minimum, making sure there's a backup there. The tricky thing with backup is it's great to back everything up, right? But then you need to be able to recover that data if there is an issue. Um, and this is why I would suggest looking at a separate cloud backup for the file and folder on potentially on top. Um, or if you're not using any backup at the moment, that's a good place to start.
Thank you. So you touched on the Avast blog. Jane asks, do Avast offer any training?
Do we offer any training? So obviously we provide the blogs, and we have the resource. If I just see if I can nip back, we have the Avast Academy,
Hmm.
which is a really great resource that you can look at across lots of different of the kind of cybersecurity threats that are out there today, and provides some level of kind of training across that website. So that's probably going to be the one. These two are probably going to be two of the best things to look at. And we'll make sure you all have those links either in the chat now or after the call. What I will say is that if anyone ever does take out any of our solutions, have any of the products with Charity Digital as well. We do provide like a sales engineer who's always able to help with the kind of deployment or answer any kind of technical questions you guys have as well. So we are here to kind of support you from that way as well if you do have any of the products and services we offer.
Absolutely. And if there, we do have, so there's the Charity Digital Academy, and we have a course coming up about cyber essentials. So the 5 key points
Super.
to consider for that. So that's a separate part covered as well, as you touched on cyber essentials. Um, Again, we've had some quite similar questions come through. So Jessica asks, we have 18 volunteers who access our cloud-based data from their own phones and laptops. What would your advice be for us with respect to this? And then there was another question about, is there anything specific we need to bear in mind, sort of laptops versus phones? What are the different cybersecurity needs between the two?
Super questions. I mean, in an ideal world, right, they wouldn't be accessing any business data on their public phones, right? On their own phones and laptops, right? Ideally. Um, but we're trying to work with what we've got. And again, that is some of the new unique challenges, specifically with the charity sector. I would kind of urge, if possible, to get a business grade VPN for the public phones for the people working from home, and therefore that traffic is then going to be encrypted, as I mentioned, because they may just be using home-based Wi-Fi at the moment. So I would think at the very minimum, especially if they're working from kind of laptops at home, make sure they have a VPN on there. Please make sure that those personal laptops have an antivirus on there. Obviously, we have a paid business product, but worst case, we also have the free product, which is Avast One, which you guys can look at as well. But please, what I would kind of say again, we're speaking to some organisations is when volunteers are onboarded, these things are just mentioned. In terms of the onboarding, you're going to be working from home. We need to make sure you have some kind of antivirus on those machines. It's a challenge, absolutely, because you can't see it within the organisation, and perfect in a perfect world, these would be laptops within the organization. But make sure, if you can, there's a VPN in place, and make sure there's a policy for antivirus there. In terms of phones, typically not everyone puts antivirus on phones. It's a bit of a contentious one within the wider cybersecurity space at the moment. However, once again, there are free products that we do in terms of protecting your phones. Across iPhone and Android, and we will send links there as well. You're going to have links out your ears to everything. We're going to have a breakdown for you and all the information. And what I will also mention specifically for phones as well, across our sister part of the business, which is Norton, we do a kind of Norton small business product there as well, which has specific protection for the phones as well, if that's ever of interest. So absolutely, when it comes to your laptops and your desktops, you have to have an antivirus built in there, and I would urge you to have a VPN. When it comes to the phones, that I would suggest having an antivirus put on there. Again, that's kind of up to your guys' discretion. But the more layers of protection you have, the better, right? Ultimately, I would urge everyone to have as much there as possible. Again, super tricky one. Have it in the policy. Ask the volunteers that if they're going to use their devices, that they have an antivirus in place. Suggest an antivirus. They can always download one from our website if that's something you guys want to do.
Definitely. The resources are going to take you as long to compile as the actual
I've made
presentation
too
will.
many promises here. Unreal.
Yeah. So Chelsea asks, we have some shared accounts, and this means we have to share one-time passwords with each other. This is often done via Teams, which seems unsafe. What is a better alternative? And yeah, there seems to be a theme throughout the questions of deploying passwords from a central location as well.
Yeah, tricky one, right? Because we don't want to be sharing passwords on
Yeah.
Teams. That's really the last thing we want to do. Let alone multiple people within the same organization having access to passwords. One of the things that's super important when it comes to security is only giving people credentials to the specific parts of the business they need, because that allows us to lock down other parts of the businesses and reduce risks. We don't want Joe Blogs to be having the password and accidentally accessing some files or data that they shouldn't be, or especially someone then is a volunteer dipping in and out of the organization and has access to passwords and can access data or potentially leak data that they shouldn't do. It's a really super question. I'm going to get Paul, who's one of our sales engineers, to if you note down the question, James, pass it to me after the call. I'll get one of my sales engineers, a bit more technical than myself, to give you a super answer there, and we'll get you some help on what the best tips are there for that specific issue.
Yes. Yes, thank you very much. Final, maybe one or two questions. Sorry, I mean, it's great that we've had so many questions, but we are running tight on time. So, this is a good one. What about email security and file encryption?
Yeah, so with email security these days, people use maybe are using Outlook from Microsoft, or maybe people are using Gmail through Google browsers. Through the browsers, there's going to be a certain level of email security already built in. What you're seeing with lots of these browser uh, email accounts today and Microsoft is they have their own spam filters built in. But there's always more that a business can do when it comes to email security, whether you're looking at a kind of third-party anti-spam solution, which will provide you an extra layer looking at traffic that does come in, and then sending that directly to the spam or to the junk folder. I know there's a couple of businesses at the moment that would have something like working with someone like Mimecast, or one of the extra email encryption companies. There is an option of kind of free tools that you can use, especially on the browser, so you can add in extra levels of protection there. Encryption can be important depending on the files and folders and data that you're sending. So if you are sending super important information, addresses, card details, that kind of stuff, then the advice is that those documents are encrypted, and that would stop any potential data being stolen or leaked. If you do have a specific need when it comes around to encryption, we'll try and dig out some information, but feel free to reach out to James and we'll get you some information on the encryption. Often, full transparency, is more expensive to take up an encryption tool, but in certain situations, it can be worth, at least in my mind, to make that investment to keep the data kind of safe and secure. But we'll come back to you on that one as well. I wasn't expecting so many questions, James. I've made so many promises here, but if you've made a note of all of those, send those over to me afterwards and we'll get full answers responded to everything as well.
Yeah, we'll explore all the questions.
Super.
But thank you so much, James. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have
Wow.
for today. It's flown. So yes, thank you, James, and everyone who has attended. Our next webinar will be on Thursday, the 5th of June, and will be on AI for Charities, what leaders need to know with Click IT. We'll share the registration for this in the chat. And finally, if you could share your feedback with us, that would be fantastic. The link is also in the chat. It should only take a few minutes, and it really helps us shape the sessions so that we can help the charity sector. Once again, thank you, James, and thanks everyone for attending, and we will see you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers for the
Thank you very
engagement.
much. Bye.